Do you ever wonder why some men don't chase yet women chase them? Why some guys seem rare, valuable, untouchable, while others get ignored no matter how hard they try? What separates the man women crave from the man women tolerate? You see, this is the problem most men face. They try too hard, they give too much, they show all their cards too soon. They think attention, effort, and constant availability will make her stay. But it actually makes her lose interest faster. Why? Because people don't value what comes too easily. Think about it. When you're always available, when you're always eager, when you're always proving yourself, aren't you secretly telling her that she is the prize and you are the follower? And what happens then? You lose your mystery. You lose your power. You become predictable, and predictable never creates desire. Now here's the real trap. Many men believe they need to act tougher, play games or fake confidence to flip the script. But deep down, they still don't understand the psychology behind attraction. They're trying tactics instead of becoming the kind of man women naturally crave. So let me ask you, what if you could flip this completely? What if you didn't have to chase, impress, or beg for attention anymore? What if women saw you as rare, valuable, and hard to replace? That's exactly what you're going to discover in this video. By the end, you'll understand how to stop being ordinary and start being magnetic. You'll see why scarcity, purpose, detachment, and emotional control make you powerful, and you'll finally have the tools to create a reality where she works for your love. Stay with me, because every second from here will give you the exact solutions you've been searching for. What if I told you the biggest reason women lose interest isn't because you're not good enough, but because you unknowingly hand over all your power too early? Think about it. Have you ever wondered why she seemed excited at first, then slowly pulled back? Why her replies went from instant to delayed? Why her eyes stopped lighting up when you walked into the room? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most men kill attraction, not by what they lack, but by what they give away. They show too much too soon. They reveal their need for her approval. They make her feel like she's the prize, while they themselves fade into the background. Let me ask you, have you ever texted back instantly because you didn't want her to feel ignored? Cancelled your own plans just to fit into hers? Tried to prove your worth with attention, compliments, or favors, hoping she'd see your value? Felt that heavy sinking in your chest when you realized you're chasing while she's withdrawing? If you nodded your head to even one of these, you've already experienced the slow death of attraction. But here's the twist. It's not her fault. It's the way you framed yourself. Women don't lose interest randomly. They lose interest when they sense you're no longer a challenge, when they realize you're investing more in them than they are in you. Now let's flip the script. Imagine being the man who never has to chase, the man who doesn't hand over his power like a free sample, the man who sets the tone of the connection and makes her step up to earn his validation. That's not arrogance. That's alignment with human psychology. Because people value what they have to work for, and women are no different. So here's the question you should ask yourself. Are you the man who keeps proving himself, or are you the man who makes her prove herself to you? The difference is night and day. One leaves you drained, ignored, and doubting your worth. The other makes her lean in, fight for your time, and see you as rare. Stick with me, because in this video, I'll break down how to shift from giving away your power to holding it in a way that makes her magnetized by your presence. And trust me, once you learn this, you'll never go back to chasing again. What if I told you that the biggest reason women lose interest isn't about your looks, money, or even your confidence, but something much deeper, something most men never notice until it's too late? What if the real killer of attraction isn't rejection, but comfort? Think about it. Why do so many men start off strong, only to watch the spark die slowly, as if the woman's excitement faded into thin air? Why does she laugh less, text slower, and stop chasing, even though nothing obvious changed? Here's the hidden problem. When you remove the unknown, you remove the thrill. Women crave mystery, but most men unknowingly strip it away the moment they settle in. They start answering every text instantly. They become predictable with their words, their actions, their rhythm. And here's the question: can someone desire what they already fully know? Can she crave what she has already mapped out in her head like a daily routine? Ask yourself this: how often have you caught yourself trying too hard to explain yourself to her? How often do you try to prove your loyalty, your intentions, your feelings, hoping that clarity will make her love you more? But what if clarity is the very thing that dulls her excitement? What if the more she knows about every detail of you, the less space there is for her imagination to play, for her curiosity to grow, for her heart to crave? This is the problem most men never solve. They think attraction is about being as available as possible, as transparent as possible, as predictable as possible. But is it really? Let me ask you, does the movie you've already seen 10 times still excite you the same way as the first watch? Does the book you've read cover to cover still pull you in the way it did the first night? Of course not. The thrill comes from the unknown. And yet, men hand over their entire story on a silver platter within days of knowing her. And here's where the loop deepens. Why do women test men, push their buttons and create drama at times? Is it really because they enjoy conflict? Or is it because they subconsciously crave the challenge, the uncertainty, the puzzle? If you've ever wondered why a woman seems more alive when she's trying to figure you out, the answer is simple: mystery is fuel. Without it, attraction starves. So the question is, how do you balance being real without being predictable? How do you show her enough to connect, but never enough to be completely solved? How do you stay honest without being boring? These are the problems most men ignore, and yet they are the very reasons women drift, lose interest, and search for excitement elsewhere. The hidden trap of emotional overinvestment. Have you ever stopped to wonder why some men lose all sense of power the moment they start liking a woman? Why is it that the same guy who's strong, confident and sharp in every other part of his life suddenly becomes weak, anxious and desperate when it comes to romance? Isn't it strange how men who can handle stress at work, competition in business or even challenges in life suddenly fall apart in front of one woman's smile? Why does this happen? Why do we let one person's attention, or the fear of losing it, control our emotions so completely? Why do we act as if one woman is the center of our entire existence when we've lived years before meeting her? And why do men, even smart ones, overinvest their emotions so fast without realizing how dangerous that is? Think about it. Have you ever felt your day get ruined because she didn't text you back fast enough? Or have you caught yourself planning your life around her schedule instead of your own? Have you ever noticed how your thoughts become trapped in endless what-ifs? What if she finds someone else? What if she's losing interest? What if I'm not enough? Here's the problem. When you overinvest emotionally before she has proven her worth, you automatically put her above you. You place her on a pedestal while lowering yourself. This makes you needy, predictable, and easy to manipulate, even if she isn't consciously trying to manipulate you. Let's ask the hard questions. Why do men give so much before they even know if she truly deserves it? Why do men act like her attention is gold, while their own presence is treated like dust? Why do men pour their time, energy, and focus into someone who hasn't earned it, only to feel empty when it's not returned? Why do men hand over their emotional stability to someone who could walk away at any moment? This overinvestment creates an imbalance. The more you give without measure, the less she values it. Humans don't respect what comes too easily. We value what feels rare, what requires effort, and what cannot be replaced. If your emotions, your time, and your energy are given away without thought, she will unconsciously see you as common, replaceable, and safe. Not exciting, not rare, and not valuable. The solution begins with a shift in mindset. Your emotions are not free currency to hand out without boundaries. They are investments, and like any investment, they should only be made when the value is proven. Your attention should be scarce, your energy guarded, and your emotions given carefully, not blindly. So ask yourself, if you're a man who's been over-investing, when will you stop treating your emotions like cheap coins and start treating them like gold? When will you stop giving before she earns it? When will you take back the power that comes from holding your emotions steady instead of placing them in someone else's hands? Because here's the truth. The moment you stop over-investing, you begin to shift the balance. She starts to wonder, why isn't he chasing me like everyone else? Why doesn't he fall apart when I pull away? Why does he seem so steady and calm when other men are emotional messes? That's when attraction grows. That's when she works harder for your love. Now let me ask you this. Are you ready to break free from this emotional trap and discover how to build unshakable control over your feelings? What if I told you that the very thing that makes most men weak in a woman's eyes isn't lack of money, looks, or even status, but something far more hidden, something so subtle that you don't even notice when you're doing it? What if the real reason women lose interest is because men give away their mental strength too easily? Think about it. How many times have you felt yourself changing your plans just to keep her happy? How many times have you said yes when you wanted to say no just because you were afraid she'd get upset? How many times have you silenced your truth, buried your opinions and swallowed your feelings, hoping that being easy and nice would keep her around? What happens when a man becomes too agreeable? What happens when he gives away his time, his schedule, and his priorities without making her earn it? What happens when a man avoids conflict, thinking that keeping the peace will make her respect him more? What happens when a man never challenges her, never stands firm, never says, "This is where I draw the line"? The truth is brutal. The more you erase yourself to keep her, the less she values you. She doesn't admire the man who bends every time the wind blows. She admires the man who can look her in the eye and say, "I hear you, but this is my standard." And here's the painful irony. By avoiding the small conflicts, by trying to keep things smooth, you create a bigger problem. You kill the attraction. Women don't want a puppet they can control. They want a man they can trust to lead, to anchor, to stay solid even when she tests him. Let me give you the deeper truth most men never hear. A woman will always test the strength of your boundaries, not because she's cruel, not because she wants to hurt you, but because she wants to feel safe knowing the man she's with can hold his ground. If she can push you over easily, she knows the world will push you over too. And if the world can break you, then she can't rely on you. That's why so many men end up confused. But I gave her everything. I made it so easy for her. Yet she still walks away, because giving everything without self-respect doesn't win her love. It drains her desire. So the real question is this. Are you living as a man with walls so weak that a single push collapses them? Or are you living as a fortress, steady, unshaken, unmovable? When you master your boundaries, you don't just keep her respect, you multiply her attraction. Because nothing is more magnetic to a woman than a man who knows exactly where he stands and refuses to move for anyone. So here's the challenge for you. Are you strong enough to stop being the easy man and start being the fortress man? Or are you still afraid that saying no will cost you love? Have you ever noticed how some men enter a room, say very little, and yet everyone feels their presence? Why is it that silence, when used correctly, speaks louder than words? Could it be that the greatest power in attraction isn't in what you say, but in what you withhold? Now let's ask the uncomfortable questions. Why do so many men talk too much around women, oversharing every detail about their lives, as if words alone will buy them respect? Why do some men feel this desperate urge to fill silence with constant chatter, fearing that a pause might make them look boring? And why does this endless talking almost always make them appear weaker instead of stronger? Here's the truth most men never realize. Silence is a weapon of mystery, control, and magnetism. The problem is, men misuse it, or worse, never use it at all. They think attraction is built by proving, explaining, or entertaining. But has a king ever needed to explain why he sits on the throne? Has a lion ever needed to explain why the jungle respects him? Of course not. Their power is self-evident, not spoken into existence. Ask yourself this: when was the last time you let silence stretch in a conversation with a woman, and instead of rushing to break it, you allowed her to lean in, to wonder what you were thinking, to feel the weight of your calm presence? How many opportunities have you lost because you gave away your power with nervous words instead of holding it with composed silence? Here's the problem men face. They believe silence equals awkwardness, when in truth, silence equals authority. They think every question from a woman demands a full answer, when sometimes the most attractive response is a calm smirk, a short reply, or no reply at all. They think filling silence keeps a woman interested, but in reality, it robs her of the chance to invest in the moment, to chase, to wonder, to try harder to pull you in. And so the cycle continues. Men speak too much, reveal too much, and by doing so, remove every layer of mystery that could have drawn her closer. They become predictable, readable, even boring. Meanwhile, the man who holds back, who lets silence carry its own power, becomes the one she can't stop thinking about. Why? Because the mind craves what it doesn't fully understand. So let's confront the problem head-on. Why do you fear silence when silence could be your greatest ally? Why do you reveal your every thought when the most powerful men reveal almost nothing? Why do you chase with words when attraction multiplies in the space between them? The silence you avoid is the silence that could have made you unforgettable. What if I told you that the most dangerous mistake men make is not chasing women too much, but forgetting how to chase themselves? Imagine this: you spend hours thinking about her texts, her reactions, her moods, but when was the last time you thought deeply about your own direction, your own mission, your own self-respect? And here's the real trap most men fall into. They put so much energy into being available, into pleasing her, into proving themselves, yet they forget the one thing women actually crave: a man who is already whole without her. Why do so many men keep asking, "What do women want?" but rarely ask, "What do I want?" Why do men bend over backward to meet her needs, but hesitate to set their own standards? Why do men panic when a woman pulls back, but stay silent when they feel drained, disrespected, or overlooked? Why do men spend energy proving they're worthy of her love, instead of asking if she's worthy of their loyalty? Why do men place a crown on her head before she's even earned the title of queen? Why do men fear losing her more than losing themselves? Do you see the problem? A man who makes her the center of his world will always lose his center. He becomes dependent, predictable, easy to control, and women, whether they admit it or not, lose respect for a man who abandons his self-respect just to keep their approval. The shift in value. Here's where the real power lies. Attraction doesn't come from constantly serving her or bending to her will. Attraction comes from a man who carries standards, a man who has a line he will not cross, a core he will not abandon, and a vision he will not compromise. Think about it. If you never ask, "What boundaries do I demand in my relationships? What behaviors do I not tolerate? What kind of energy do I want around me?" then you'll always end up being the passenger in your own life, letting her drive while you sit quietly in the back seat. But here's the truth. The rarest, most magnetic men are not the ones who know every line to say, every trick to play, or every gesture to impress. The rarest men are the ones who are not afraid to walk away if their standards are not met. When you hold to your own standards, you do something most men never do. You flip the dynamic. You stop asking, "Will she choose me?" and instead you ask, "Does she deserve me?" That question alone changes everything. It makes you patient, it makes you scarce, it makes you intentional. And here's the paradox: when you no longer chase her approval, when you stand firm in your boundaries, when you live by your own compass, suddenly she starts chasing you. Because what she really craves is not a man who revolves around her, but a man who moves with such strength, purpose, and clarity that she wants to revolve around him. So let me ask you this: have you ever stopped to think about your own non-negotiables, your own code, your own path, or have you been living by hers? Because until you set that standard, you will always be caught in her game, and she will never respect the man who doesn't respect himself. Have you ever noticed that the men who seem the most magnetic aren't the loudest in the room, nor the most aggressive, but the ones who move with an unshakable calm? It's as if nothing rattles them. They carry themselves like mountains, solid, grounded, and immovable. And here's the twist: women are drawn to them not because they're the strongest physically, but because they radiate something far rarer: mental stillness and controlled presence. Let's ask the hard questions. Why is it that so many men lose control of themselves in the heat of emotions, and in doing so, lose their respect in her eyes? Why do men think raising their voice, rushing their words, or over-explaining will win respect, when in reality it reveals their lack of inner balance? Why do women test men with small challenges, sharp remarks, or moments of silence, only to feel let down when the man reacts too quickly? Why do so many men confuse passion with panic, failing to realize that true strength is not in reaction but in restraint? Now pause here, because this is where the hidden truth lies. A man who reacts wildly is easy to read, easy to manipulate, easy to control. But a man who stays still in the storm, who doesn't flinch when tension rises, suddenly becomes a puzzle. He becomes rare. He becomes unforgettable. Why this matters? Women crave a man who can stand inside discomfort without trying to escape it. Think about it. Life is full of storms, stress, pressure, arguments, disappointments. If you break down at the slightest wave, what confidence will she have that you can face the bigger ones? She doesn't consciously say, "I want a man with emotional stillness," but unconsciously, every move she makes is testing if you have it. When she pulls away to see how you'll react, do you chase in panic or stay calm and centered? When she gets moody, do you explode in frustration or do you hold your frame, letting the storm pass? When she gives you silence, do you beg for attention or do you let your calm presence fill the room? This is where true attraction is built, not in loud displays of dominance, but in quiet control, not in proving yourself endlessly, but in proving that nothing can break your inner balance. The Stoic edge. A Stoic man understands that calmness isn't weakness, it's the highest form of power. It signals, "I am not moved by every wind. I am not broken by every test. I am not desperate for approval." And here's the fascinating part. The less reactive you are, the more she leans in. Why? Because silence makes her curious, calmness makes her respect you, and your steady presence makes her feel safe, even if she can't put it into words. So ask yourself, are you the man who loses control when things don't go your way? Or are you the man who holds steady, unshaken, unbothered, unbreakable? Because if you master this one trait, your presence alone will command attention without you even trying. Now let me ask you this. Do you want me to show you how to build this unshakable calm so deeply within you that no woman, no storm, no test can ever throw you off center again? Should we move to the next stage? Have you ever wondered why some men always seem to hold a woman's respect, while others slowly lose it, even if they once had her interest? Why is it that in the beginning she might admire you, lean into your energy and look up to you, but over time something shifts and the respect begins to fade? And here's the even deeper question. What silent mistakes are you making without realizing it that push her away, not through arguments, not through obvious failure, but through subtle cracks in how you show up as a man. Let's go deeper. Respect is the oxygen of attraction. Without it, everything dies. She may laugh at your jokes, enjoy your presence, and even feel a spark, but if she doesn't respect you, none of it lasts. And here's the trap. Most men don't lose respect in one giant mistake. They lose it drop by drop, through small habits, quiet behaviors, and overlooked moments that slowly erode how she sees them. So ask yourself, do you ever over-explain your actions just to avoid her disapproval? Do you say yes when deep down you mean no because you're scared of conflict? Do you let her moods dictate your moods instead of standing steady in your own energy? Do you ever feel like you're walking on eggshells around her, hoping not to upset her? Do you try to earn back her affection when she pulls away instead of holding your ground? These might look harmless on the surface, but each one eats away at respect. And here's the brutal truth. Once a woman loses respect for a man, everything else crumbles, attraction collapses, affection fades, even desire turns to indifference. Because at her core, a woman doesn't want a man she can control, she wants a man she can trust to stand firm, no matter the storm. Think about it. If she sees you bend to every request, fold under every disagreement, and abandon your own truth just to keep her happy, how can she ever believe you're the man who can lead her, protect her, and stand strong in life? Respect isn't about dominance. It's not about controlling her. It's about showing her that your values, your principles, and your inner strength cannot be negotiated away. The irony, most men think they're being good by being overly flexible, overly accommodating, or overly nice. But what they don't realize is that every time they give away their boundaries, every time they make themselves smaller to keep her comfortable, they're silently training her to see them as weak. And weakness is the one thing attraction cannot survive. So here's the value you must carry with you. A man who holds his respect commands her respect. And the secret isn't in being louder, tougher, or aggressive. It's in being unshakable in your standards. It's about showing her through consistent action that your self-worth doesn't depend on her moods, her approval, or her attention. Now the question is, are you living as the kind of man who protects his respect, or are you slowly giving it away without realizing it? The final unlock, becoming the man she can't walk away from. Let me ask you something powerful. What makes a woman stay? Not just for a week, not just for a few fun moments, but for the long run. Is it your looks? Your money? Your charm? No, because all of those things fade, shift, or get replaced by someone else who has more. So here's the final truth that brings everything together. What keeps her drawn? What keeps her chasing? What keeps her respecting you? Is not the performance of being a man, but the embodiment of becoming the man. Think about it. What happens when you are no longer shaken by her moods, her silence, or her tests? What happens when your energy doesn't crumble when she tries to push your buttons? What happens when she realizes you don't just talk about confidence, you are confidence? What happens when your life is already so full of purpose that her presence feels like a bonus, not your only source of meaning? The answer is simple. She feels something rare, security in your strength. Every woman deep down desires a man who can carry himself with such certainty that she can relax in his presence, not because he controls her, but because he is unshakable in his control over himself. This is the final unlock. Not games, not strategies, not manipulations, but mastery. Mastery over your emotions, mastery over your purpose, mastery over your frame. And here's the paradox. The less you try to make her stay, the more she stays. The less you force attraction, the more attraction grows. The less you need her to complete you, the more she wants to be completed by you. Why? Because the high-value man, the Stoic man, is not replaceable. You can copy someone's style, you can imitate someone's jokes, but you cannot duplicate the inner gravity of a man who has forged himself into strength. So the conclusion is this. If you've been following along, the solution has already been given to you. It was never about chasing her. It was never about bending for her. It was never about proving yourself. It has always been about proving yourself to yourself. The woman you want will always be drawn to the man who doesn't need her, but still chooses her. That's the rarest energy in the world. You now hold the key, not just to attraction, but to freedom. Because the moment you realize you don't have to chase, perform, or beg, you've already won. That is the final step. Stop trying to get her to love you. Become the man she cannot help but love.